Good evening. I want to welcome everyone to the March 11th Williamson County Commissioner meeting. First item on the agenda is the invocation and pledge, this month done by District 3. Jennifer Mason was unable to join us tonight, and so Commissioner Jeff Graves will do both the invocation and the pledge. Please rise.
Please pray with me. Our Father, we are grateful that we can gather tonight in public to do the will of the people and to manage the affairs of this great county and the cities that you've placed us in to live and to raise families and to operate businesses. And we thank you just for the freedom we have in that. We pray tonight as we discuss the items on the agenda that you would give us wisdom. Give us discernment in how we carry out the business and we carry ourselves. And Father, we're thankful for the men and women that you have placed here to protect and to serve and to keep us safe. We just pray you watch over them and you bring them back home safely to their families. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the roll call. If you haven't already. Call the roll, please, Mr. Whitby.
We have 21 present, 3 absent. Commissioner Aiello, Commissioner Jones, and Commissioner Mason absent.
Did hear from all 3 of those commissioners and noted that they would be absent this evening. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. They should have been included in everyone's packet. I have a motion from Commissioner Tunnicliffe, seconded by Commissioner Mary Smith. Any questions or concerns or additions with the minutes of the February 12th Commissioner meeting? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of approving those minutes, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes. Before we go into citizens' communications, which we have, how many, just 2? Okay, well, never mind then. I don't guess I need it. So next up is citizens' communications. We've got 2 individuals who have signed up. I'll call you each by your name as you have, in the order in which you signed the list. When you come to the podium, please give us your name and your town, the town that you live in. You don't have to give us your street address, but the town you live in. Each person that comes before the commission gets 3 minutes. And if you get close, I'll give you a 20-second warning, and then we'll let you know when your 3 minutes is up. First up is Ms. Janet Curtis.
Janet Curtis, and I live in Franklin. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Janet Curtis. My husband and I have worked all types of elections since approximately 2016. He is a machine operator. I've been a registrar, a fail-safe registrar, and an assistant election officer. I'm here to speak about the resolution for the feasibility study on hand-marked ballots. In my opinion, this would be taking us back to what we had before, which was a long line, specific voting precincts, registering by alphabet, and paper books. I worked before we had computers, and it was a nightmare. We can now go in and change names and addresses with verification and not have to go to the main office. There are so many more safeguards in place now than there were previously. When a voter comes in, they present proper ID, verify address, and date of birth. They are then asked which primary they want to vote in, if it's a primary, and that information comes out on their ballot. The ballot is checked and highlighted to make sure the proper political party is listed and the correct precinct is there. They then take that to the machine operator for them to set up the appropriate screen for their political choice. The person makes a selection and takes the ballot to the machine where it is scanned and counted. Throughout the day, there are triple checks on the number of votes cast. The registrar computer has a tally, the scanning machine has a tally, and the printed out voter applications are counted by hand. The numbers from each station should all match. If not, we check and recheck all counts until the discrepancy is found. The voting machines are not hooked up to any computer or Wi-Fi. If a ballot is jammed, a new one is issued and the old one is voided. Do mistakes happen? Yes, but it is easily corrected by the issuing of a new ballot or the machine operator resetting the voting machine. What will you do if someone makes a mistake with a paper ballot? You can't just erase the mistake. Hand counting all the votes leaves you more open to counting errors. I challenge anyone to show me that the voting machines can be hacked. The SIM cards are put into a locked bag and 2 signatures are required to go on that. Everything is just locked and secured. So to me, going back to paper ballots would be a major mistake. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Bill Petty.
Bill Petty, I live in Franklin. Is that the information you need? Okay. I have 3 things. Number 1 is I'm here to support the vote for Jeff Hughes to become the sheriff tonight. He won the election. The election in August is going to, nobody can be running against him. He's a proven quantity. He's done a fabulous job where he's been in the past. And I think he's doing a fabulous job for us now. And I think he should get started immediately. So I support that. Hope you make that decision tonight. Second thing is on the 5G towers. I appreciate the decision you made last week or last month. I know it was difficult. It's a sticky issue with terms of where these things can be placed and what they can do to residential properties and whatnot. I think what you did was a start, and I'm happy to hear that. And I also understand that you're going to move the one that's at Trinity School away. I think that's correct, so I hope so. And finally, on the voting machines, I don't think we should spend $100,000 for the study. I think it's a waste of time, and I'd rather see our $100,000 go somewhere else since we're so far in debt to begin with. I don't think it's going to make a difference. So that's what I have to say. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, I do appreciate what you folks do. I've been paying a lot of attention, both you and the school board and other boards, BOMA and whatnot. You guys spend a lot of time deliberating, and you have to make important decisions. And it's easy for people like me to get up and shoot at you. Although I try not to do that. I always try to be polite. But I do respect the fact that you have decisions to make, and some of the decisions are very difficult to make. And I appreciate the fact that you listen to us, and I think we can give you some good guidance as we go through this. And I thank you for your service.
Petty. Next item on the agenda is communications and messages. We have no communications or messages this evening, so we move on to reports of county offices. Mayor Rogers Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, we'll let Phoebe give us a snapshot of the county for the last 30 days. Phoebe?
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. Good evening. As you took your seat this afternoon, you saw that there are 2 sheets, 2 reports listed at your seat. We did close on our refunding bonds on Friday, March the 8th. Those reports that you have in front of you, we did not have in our possession at the time the packets went out. That's why I wanted to make sure you all had an opportunity to look at those. As required by the State of Tennessee Office of Local Finance, we are required to present those to you for your review. So just a summary of those reports in front of you. We did have a bond sale for refunding, general obligation refunding Series 2024, and a county district refunding Series 2024. We received an interest rate of 2.5% on our general obligation refunding and 2.51 on our county district school refunding. Again, both of these are 10-year bonds. They did not extend the life. They will still mature in 2034 as the original. We reported, last month I reported to you, we were hopeful and anticipating a savings of about $1 to $1.2 million in combination of the 2 bonds. We actually have achieved savings of over $1.5 million. So we did receive a little bit better interest rate than we were anticipating. So those are all hopefully good things to present to start off the evening. We did receive a loss from the conference center for the month of January in the amount of $39,437. However, our revenue for both our privilege tax and our education impact fees were strong for the month of January. Our privilege tax total collections for the month was a little over $1.6 million, and our education impact fees were a little over $1.9, almost $2 million for the month. So those are very strong months that we've had for both collections of those permits. So I will entertain any questions if you have them at this moment.
Questions for Mrs. Phoebe Riley? I see none. Thank you.
Chairman, my remarks will be very brief. In listening to Phoebe, she indicated to you all that we saved over the life of the next 10 years about $1.5 million. One of the things that was very noteworthy in the bond bidding that is done now, because of that AAA rating that you all cherish and protect, we had close to 15 people that bid on our business, 15 different firms that electronically bid on that. So it's a good, strong, healthy process that we go through. I'll ask and answer any questions you may have.
Question from Commissioner Richards.
Mayor Anderson, you may or may not be aware that I was doing some research on Williamson, Inc. and discovered we currently do not have a valid contract with them. It expired in June of 2023. It also appears to me that they have not provided the reports with the required annual information, including our annual report of benchmark goals and a detailed explanation of how the taxpayers' annual $400,000 was spent over the last few years. Can you tell me who is supposed to oversee those contracts and ensure they are renewed and fulfilled?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, Mr. Richards. It was brought to my attention that that contract was not renewed. It was an error, and it was an error out of this office. We are in the process of getting that corrected, get that documentation signed, and the funding for that goes to the ECD, not to the chamber in any way.
Next question that it brought up, and it might sound obvious, but it wasn't to me. What is supposed to be our purpose of partnering with Williamson, Inc.? It seems to me their most important goal is to grow Williamson County at a rapid rate. They've been extremely successful, probably by most residents' accounts too successful. Since we are discovering that growth does not pay for itself, would now be a good time to look at slowing down Williamson Inc.'s efforts?
You ask, is that a question? So I would take a different position from you, Commissioner, in that I think over the last 20 to 25 years, we've enjoyed a lot of success in this county. That success has come from the businesses, both small and large corporations that have come here. The ECD has helped in all of those large corporations and even to a degree in the smaller ones. Yes, we have grown and we've got our growth issues. There is no question about it. But we still have that AAA rating. We're managed good. And through the commission's efforts over the years, these votes that were taken for those have been unanimous in every single time to support those. I think there's about 11 or 12 businesses we have done some kind of a pilot program, but the rest of that growth has come from non-pilot programs.
Very much.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mayor Rogers Anderson? I see none. Thank you, Mayor. Next up, we have Williamson County Schools. I understand that Superintendent Jason Golden is unable to join us tonight, but I believe we have a report from Rachel Farmer.
Mr. Golden couldn't be here, so he asked me to come in his place, and he just wanted me to convey to you that the second semester of school has gone really, really well. He encourages all of you. Spring is hands down his favorite time on campuses because of spring sports and theater events going on. And so he said, please go look at your schools and see what's on their calendar and get in there and see what our kids are doing. It's a very active time. Before we meet again, we will have finished our end-of-the-year testing, and so we have that coming up in April as well. We have one resolution before you tonight, and it is related specifically to our central cafeteria fund, which is a self-funded fund, self-sufficient fund, and it is related to excess fund balance. So just to give you a little bit of information, the cafeteria can only keep 3 months of expenditures for fund balance. And so as the year audited financial statements came back, they gave an amount of what would be deemed excess, which is $2 million, a little over $2 million. And so Mr. Rometty is our manager for the cafeterias, and he has a plan to use those funds for some needed equipment expenditures on some of our older cafeterias, as well as some things that were needed to be added to the newer ones. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions from Mrs. Farmer? I have a question from Commissioner Lawrence.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Rachel. Just one question. Will we be reimbursed by the federal government for that $2 million from the cafeteria fund?
The reason we have the $2 million is because 2 years ago, we received some supply chain grants. We came for this same resolution last year. It was $3 million 2 years ago. The excess fund balance was $3 million. This year, we received $2 million. Last year we received $2 million in supply chain grants, and so that is the excess fund balance that we have this year. They budget accordingly, and because that was additional funds coming in, they didn't budget for that, and so we ended up with excess fund balance. We are not aware that we will receive anything else of that nature, but that doesn't mean that we won't.
So essentially, it did come from the federal government.
Correct.
Right, thank you, Rachel.
Any other questions for Mrs. Farmer?
Thank you.
Next up is the hospital report, Mr. Phil Mazuka and Mr. Mike Genesee.
Chair, Commissioners, appreciate you guys having us tonight to give you a brief report. I'll start off with a brief project report, and then Mike will give you the financial report. So we're about 81 days away from completing the major part of our project. We'll be opening the project right after our grand opening on June 18th. Project will be complete at the end of May. It'll just give us time to make sure that we get everything ready for it to take patients in there. On February 26th, we opened additional beds in our ER, so it was the first time since we started the project that we moved from 28 beds in our adult ER to 37 beds. And just in the first couple weeks, and it's not going to be the same every day, but in the first couple weeks, we noticed that the wait times in the ER have gone down since opening up those new beds, and patients are getting up to their rooms from the ER quicker. So we're already starting to see some positives out of that ER expansion. We go from the 37 beds that we have today to 43 in July, and that's when we complete the ER project. Most of the major part of the project is done, as I said, at the end of May. We still will have some work to go on OB that takes us into September, and NICU that takes us into October. But then that entire part of the project will be complete at that time. One other thing I just wanted to mention, March 30th is National Doctors Day. I watch the doctors, how hard they work every day to support this community. This is a good month to reach out to your physician and just let them know that what they do matters to this community. With that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Phil. Good evening, everybody. I know you have the financial packet in front of you. You recall that January was our snow event, so it adversely impacted the hospital, especially on the outpatient side. But even with that, we were able to exceed our budget. Our budget was not as high as they usually are because we always expect January to be a little slower. So we made an income of $210,000 on a budget of just under $8,000. We had a very strong cash collection month. We collected a little over $28 million. And from a debt covenant standpoint, we came in at 104 days of cash on hand versus a covenant of 90. And on the debt side, our debt coverage, we had 1.95 times coverage on a debt covenant of 1.5. You can see the volumes. The volumes on the report look strong, but that's because they're compared to the average, not the budget. Almost all of our KPIs were below budget, and that was because of the snow event. So other than that, I think we had a pretty good month in spite of the snow. Any questions?
Any questions for either Mr. Mazuka or Mr. Genesee? see none. Thank you. And then I believe we have a report from Mr. Jeff Whidbey.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to let everyone know that the outdoor kiosk that we have been working for quite a while on, this week or this past week, they actually finished all the connections to it. So hopefully we'll be going live with that later this week. I want to run a couple tests just to make sure that everything is complete. But it looks good. And I want to give a personal thank you to Mayor Anderson and Ms. Diane Giddens for helping get everything situated here at the facility. And Kevin Benson as well. They property management, they helped me tremendously. One last note that I did want to say, that kiosk, like the rest of the other 6 that we have in the county, we have a total of 7. They are all funded out of fees that we have, so it's really not costing the county anything. It's funded by fees the county clerk's office collects for technology. So hopefully that'll be something that'll be beneficial to everybody. Thank you.
Like we have a question from Commissioner Hayes.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you very much for working on this project. I've been waiting for this kiosk. So help maybe all of us understand, not just me. So these are people that need to that can renew at the kiosk. If you're brand new, you still have to go in and stand in line, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
These are, as long as you're within 90 days of your renewal time frame, you can renew at the kiosk.
Before or after 90?
Both,
kidding.
actually, because
Okay.
there's the window before and after.
Oh, great.
If you're more expired than 90 days, you have to come in because we do it different. But the one thing that I think is the best about it is it prints your registration and your sticker. You're good to go. I mean, when it prints off and you're ready to go, you're renewed and you don't have to come back. This one, the exciting part is it'll be 24/7. So I'm hoping it'll be beneficial. Maybe people that come that think hours may be different here, that they can just go right over there, still get their sticker and be done.
We have a marketing campaign, I would assume, to market that to county people and so they'll know?
Yes, ma'am. We'll put some stuff information out in my office. I'll make sure that the people are renewing and knew that they'll get information when they come in. I just want to make sure that we're good to go before I pump all that out there. But yeah, very soon, look for it.
Awesome.
You'll see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Whidbey? Thank you, Mr. Whidbey. Thank you for that, and thank all the department heads for their reports this evening. Moving on to elections and appointments, we do have a question from Commissioner Sturgeon.
My understanding was Mr. Duda was going to be here today to tell us about elections.
I think it's part of the resolution.
I've just figured it was another department report.
We've already gone through that, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll be, yeah, that's coming up. Sorry. All right, elections and appointments. We have 6, the last of which is the nomination and appointment of the sheriff. And just as a reminder of how the agenda will flow, I believe presumptively that once Jeff Hughes is voted in, he has requested that Mayor Rogers Anderson swear him in, so we'll go through a swearing-in ceremony. And then there is some paperwork that Diane needs to have filled out, so at her request, we'll take a probably 10-minute recess to allow the paperwork to be completed. But the first election and appointment is Emergency Communications Board. Term expiring is Presley Hughes. Nomination is Presley Hughes. I'll entertain, are we going to do the motions on the screen? They're not set up. All right, I'll take a verbal motion and second. Motion. Got a motion from Commissioner Sanford and a second from Commissioner Graves. These will all be voice votes. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nomination passes. Next is Highway Commission members, 2 expiring terms. Term expiring David Coleman, nomination David Coleman. Term expiring Wayne Davis, nomination Wayne Davis. I'll entertain a motion. Motion. Got a first from Judy Herbert and a second from Commissioner Smith, I believe. So proper motion and second made. Any questions? Seeing none, if you're in favor of these nominations, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nomination passes. Industrial Development Board, term expiring Kurt Winstead, nomination Kurt Winstead. I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Commissioner David Landrum, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of the nomination of Kurt Winstead, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nomination passes. Regional Planning Commission, terms expiring, Don Crohan, Eddie Sanders, and Brian Richter. Nominations, Don Crowan, Eddie Sanders, and Brian Richter. Proper motion? Motion made by
Megan Guffey.
Commissioner Guffey and seconded by
Herbert.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe. Any questions? If you're in favor of those nominations, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nominations pass. Zoning Appeals Board, terms expiring, David Parker. Nominations, David Parker. I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Tunnicliffe. Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of David Parker's nomination, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And nomination passes. And now we come to Williamson County Sheriff, an expired term resigned by Dusty Rhodes. I'll entertain a nomination. We get a motion first?
Second.
Do we do the motion first and then the nomination?
The nomination is by Commissioner
Okay.
Richards for Jeff Hughes, seconded by Sanford.
When do we do the motions?
That is the motion.
Okay. I have a motion to nominate Jeff Hughes by Commissioner Richards, seconded by Commissioner Sanford. Are there any other nominations? If there are no other nominees, do I have a motion to cease nominations and vote by acclamation? That motion made by Commissioner Lawrence and seconded, I believe, by Commissioner Sturgeon. All those in favor of Jeff Hughes as the nomination of Sheriff of Williamson County, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Hughes. And with that, I believe the mayor.
Read it, just me repeat after you.
I'm gonna read one with you.
Okay.
Before I begin, Mr. Chairman, it is noteworthy for me to the sheriff here today. His dad standing up here served on this board for many, many long years, about 20 years. A lot of you probably know that, but his dad was well thought of, well respected, and we appreciate you being here tonight with your son.
Thank you.
All right. Both of us together may get this done,
We might
Sheriff.
get it done.
You would repeat after me. I, Jeff Hughes,
I, Jeff Hughes,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will perform
that I will perform
with fidelity
with fidelity
the duties of the
the
office
duties of the office
to which I have been elected
to which I have been elected
and which I'm about to assume.
and which I'm about to assume.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
to support the constitutions
to support the Constitution
of Tennessee
and the United States
and to faithfully perform
the
duties of the office
of sheriff
for Williamson
in
County.
Williamson County, Tennessee.
I further swear
I further swear
that I have not promised or given,
that I have not promised or given,
nor will I give any fee,
nor will I give any fee, gift,
gratuity, or reward
gratuity, or reward
for this office, or for aid in procuring this office,
or for aid in procuring this office,
that I will not take any fee,
that I will not take any fee,
gift, or bribe,
or bribe,
or gratuity,
or gratuity
for returning any person
for returning any person
as a juror,
or
for making any false return
for making any false return
of any process,
of any process,
that I will faithfully execute the office
that I will faithfully execute the office
of sheriff
of sheriff
to the best of my knowledge
to the best of my knowledge
and ability,
and ability,
and agreeable to law.
and agreeable to law.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Your microphone.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I am honored and humbled to receive your vote tonight. I'm kind of at a loss for words, to be quite honest with you. This is such a tremendous opportunity for me to serve the citizens of Williamson County. I want to thank the citizens of Williamson County who have elected me. I promise to do the very best job that I possibly can to fulfill the role of Sheriff of Williamson County. I want to publicly thank my friend Mark Elrod, who's in the room tonight. I want to thank my friend Darren Barnes, who's in the room tonight, who ran a very great campaign. It wasn't easy, and I know what we all went through, and so I want to congratulate them as well. Look forward to serving with each and every one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff Hughes. And before we take a short recess so that Diane can do the paperwork that is needed, I wanted to say on behalf of the entire commission that I would like to express our gratitude to Mark Elrod for his 26-plus years with the Williamson County Sheriff's Department, for your countless dedication, service, the risks that you took during your tenure, the countless work you've done behind the scenes, and the many, many nights that while this commission sat and did the county's business, you stood and ensured our safety. And with that, we'll take a 10-minute recess. We'll reconvene at, let's call it 7:45.
Good job of keeping it close to 10 minutes.
Yeah. The commissioners could all return to their seats. We will reconvene. March 11th Commissioner meeting.
You know I love it.
You know I love these things.
I've been sitting there eating all the little ones out of the
That's funny. Found some more to do, huh?
I used to sing for it.
I swear if she goes 2 days to that order something, Amazon is gonna like seriously send somebody like a search party out to my house.
All right, as we reconvene, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Consent agenda should be in your packet. I will entertain a motion for approval. It says votes. We're voting.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. Proper motion made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Mary Smith. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote on the consent agenda, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. See, Commissioner Hester, Commissioner Williams is coming, and Commissioner Lawrence. Where is Commissioner Hester? All right, Commissioner Hester may be absent for this vote. Okay, record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no, and Commissioner Hester absent.
Approved. Unfinished business, Resolution 3-2416, formerly Resolution 2-24-9, a resolution appropriating and amending the 23-24 Election Commission budget by $100,000 for consulting fees for a feasibility study for hand-marked paper ballots, revenues to come from unappropriated county general funds. Proper motion made by and it's back to the voting screen.
Motion by Mary Smith.
Okay, here we go. Proper motion made by Commissioner Mary Smith, seconded by Commissioner Chaz Morton. Any discussion? And I guess before we go to that, the Budget Committee was 0 for and 4 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Morton.
Yes, this is.
No. Yes.
All right. This is back for reconsideration. This was asked to be deferred last month. I think the commissioners wanted to have a little more time to study it. We also had an opportunity to hear from Chairman Duda, and he's here to answer any questions that y'all have. So I'll turn it over to him.
A question from Commissioner Tunnicliffe.
Thank you, Chairman Duda. If we don't proceed with the study tonight, what's our plan to go forward?
Well, we're going to concentrate on conducting the elections for 2024. We'll continue to evaluate the options that exist for tools and the processes or systems that are available for conducting elections. We constantly evaluate those things, and that would be our plan forward, is really to, as a commission, concentrate on the elections that are occurring this year.
Question from Commissioner Richards.
At the hand-marked paper ballot study, in the discussion during the budget meeting, it became apparent to me the only way to honestly look at that option, given the complexity of the vote centers, is to look at eliminating the vote centers. Are you honestly looking at that as an option?
We would be looking at all options on the table, but we could have vote centers, for instance, and potentially have specific sites or super center for hand-marked paper ballot opportunity for voters that wish to do that. That's an option. So there are a lot of various options.
What is supposed to be the purpose of vote centers? Is it to get more people to vote? To me, it certainly looked like, just based upon the presidential primaries, that has not worked.
Well, actually, we increased the turnout that we had for this election by a small amount, and far exceeded what the state average was. For vote centers,
It's about providing the convenience and providing greater access to the ballot box for the voter. And we believe we've accomplished that through multiple election cycles. Common error, that, or not an error, common comment that we got from citizens under precinct voting are those that may have showed up to a site at 6:55, for instance, and waited in line, and just to be told at the registrar's office or the register station that they were at the wrong precinct. Well, there's no cure for that. After 7 o'clock, they can't go to their proper site. That happened at each of our elections prior to moving to vote centers.
And correct my memory if I'm wrong, but the March 3rd, 2020 presidential primary, that was not done in vote centers, correct?
That was the first election that we did use vote centers. Is that correct? Yeah, the 2020 cycle, March, August, and November were vote centers.
Okay, so 2016 has show total turnout for Williamson County at 37%, which was not in vote centers. 2020 at a 24%, so it's already dropped from 2016. And then 2024 had a 19% voter turnout, a drop from 2020. That was my point on not seeing any kind of increased voter turnout.
First of all, looking at individual, 2016, for instance, the presidential primary was a very the voting public was very enthusiastic about making their voices heard. You have to look at each individual race as to why pure turnout numbers would change. But we look at things like the spread between the baseline being maybe the states across the state of Tennessee, their increase. We would expect the same enthusiasm in Williamson County, for instance, or lack of enthusiasm. So we look at different other metrics compared to baselines as opposed to just pure turnout to say if we're doing things well or doing things.
Okay, so it sounds like we don't have a clear answer if the vote centers are really working.
I would dare say that they are extremely popular. Very, very popular with voters. Voters have the opportunity to vote according to their schedule, and it has accomplished what we sought, which was to provide greater access and convenience to voters.
But based upon those metrics, it looks like from 2020 to 2024, for this particular election, the numbers of voters has dropped.
Again, we look at baselines which actually show the opposite, that we have had more participation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sturgeon.
I noticed that we've had a few irregularities this election because at the very beginning in early voting, they found some of the ballots were missing candidates. And we've also had people who were given the wrong ballot. And I know you said everything was working correctly, but I'm just wondering, are you doing anything to prevent that from happening in the next election?
Well, first of all, yes. The ballot error that you described occurred on we identified it on the first day of early voting. And by that afternoon, we had put a fix into the system so that voters would receive the ballots that they were entitled to. We identified if there were any, the impact of that error, and we quantified and it got down to the numbers very specifically to have confidence that in that particular instance, the error was caused by human error. One, we didn't proof we received the ballots, 136 styles of them, and we didn't catch an error. So our proofing process, physical proofing process, is going to be improved. We're going to not just rely on an individual, we're going to have multiple checks there. So to answer your question for that. Second, our logistics and testing process, LNA testing, that we do can be improved as well. And we know exactly what we need to do to make sure that error does not occur in the future. So yes, there are things like that that we learn from every election and institute so that we don't have the same issues.
Process where, once the ballot's printed out and given to the voter, is there any worker that checks to make sure, yes, they did get the right ballot? And then maybe sign something or check something so we have a physical verification that the process hasn't broken down and the voter was given the wrong ballot to vote with?
Yeah, a voter receiving their proper ballot is an issue in our elections that we've always had, and we have a heightened awareness or focus on. We do have two individuals, the registrar and the machine operator, that were specifically trained during this election to match those two pieces of information. And they do physically initial the application of the voter in the very vicinity of the ballot style that they are checking, which the registrar has highlighted whenever they check it. Yes.
That's before the guy gets their ballot.
That's the way it's supposed to work.
So after that's been printed out, there's no verification that the right ballot was printed out?
The ballot style is activated with the ballot style number on it, and that is what is reviewed by the registrar, the machine operator, and also potentially the voter as well.
If we're counting on the voters to catch it, I just don't think that's going to work very well.
We have multiple steps in place, and we have to have better training on that.
Back when
frankly.
we had precinct voting,
Yes.
each precinct only had 2 ballots or maybe 3? You wouldn't have had 136 ballots in every precinct.
We would have multiple ballot styles at precincts potentially, and people receiving, for instance, a Thompson Station election that occurs in November. A Spring Hill resident receives a Thompson Station ballot. That happened to me specifically once, and I raised my hand, and it turned out that the machine operator had deployed the wrong ballot style. So that did occur under precinct voting as well.
So how many normally does a precinct have? How many ballots, I'm sorry?
Well, we have some precincts that have 6 or 7, districts that have 6 or 7. I'd have to get back to you because we
So
don't
it's a lot less
track
than
that now.
136, right?
That's correct.
Commissioner Hayes.
I have a few questions, but just make a point, like what Barb was just mentioning, Commissioner Sturgeon, that when you go back to precincts, you have a whole lot less ballots to choose from, so you have a whole lot less room for error. So again, I don't understand why we don't seriously consider going back to what makes it simpler, because you're just opening, our election commission is just opening us up to so much more problems and errors by having 136, but I can't even imagine that. I mean, as a person, I can't imagine being the person to validate them and then have to make sure, oh my God, which one are you getting? I just, from a logical standpoint, precincts just make more sense to me. Ballot error fixed the first day. What kind of testing do you guys do to make sure, and maybe I've already answered my question with 136 ballot styles, but what do you do to make sure that the ballots are correct? Do you do testing? Do you do run-throughs? Help me understand that.
Good point. If the commissioners could refrain their questions to the resolution itself, which is a resolution to either fund or
Well, this
not
goes
fund
back
or
to, if we're going to
study.
do a study on pan-marked paper ballots, it'd be helpful to know that we have a good process for handling ballots that we currently have. So respectfully, Commissioner Williams, I do have a point, if you'd allow me to get there. But I think that's a valid question, is are we doing testing prior?
Yes, we have an extensive logistics and accuracy testing program that we enhance after every election when we find another issue that we should test for. Every ballot style should be tested. Every piece of this very complex system that we have for operating elections is and should be tested.
And then probably my last question is, we spent a lot of money on this vendor. and their various machines and all the accoutrements that go with it. Do they not offer us advisement and free training on how to handle hand-marked paper ballots and/or our neighboring counties to also supplement coming up? I mean, I don't understand why we have to spend $100,000 to, when we have a vendor that's already making a lot of money off of us.
We've consulted with our peer counties. Nobody else has a system exactly like what we have. Ultimately, the complexity of conducting elections means that whenever you make a change like this, you got to do it very intentionally, and even the smallest of changes can have rippling effects across unintended effects, and we have to understand that. Ultimately, if we're going to bring hand-marked paper ballots as an option to voters in Williamson County, you know, the Election Commission has discussed this at length, and we developed the type of scope of work that was very intentional for us to be able to evaluate the opportunity to do this and what would be necessary, and that's where we are today.
Thank you.
Commissioners,
Go ahead.
if you have another statement.
Well, I do want, I would be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to tell you on the heels of last week that we had 36,000 voters ultimately served in this primary, and I wanted to take the opportunity to thank, we had 250 poll workers that worked for us that day. That's folks in this community, and thank you for your comments earlier. But we had 250 poll workers. We had 36,000 residents that came out and participated in this fundamental right. This is the closest government gets to people is their elections. And I also wanted to thank the Williamson County Schools. They closed so that we can have our election. It disrupted their programming the week break before spring break. Teachers, parents, and every part of that system were disrupted. But we appreciate the use of those schools. And then also the Williamson County Parks and Rec, their programming of their facilities are interrupted when we get in there as well. But ultimately, Chad and our staff ran a very good election. We have very good results, despite a couple of the hiccups that we have identified and will learn from. I want to take that opportunity to say that. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Smith, a question pertaining to the resolution.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, too, for all your poll workers. I mean, everyone conducted themselves. In my experience, when I got to the polls, everyone was very helpful, explained everything through the process. And so I think the staff that you have does a commendable job. So thank you to everyone that serves, both as poll workers and as poll watchers. I really appreciate your service to our community. So I just have a quick question on a possible option to the study is, I know we have a lot of really, and there's a lot of people out there very interested in helping to serve, to kind of do this study and partner with you. So would you be open to putting together a citizens study committee on looking at the various options and working with them to possibly look and have them make, you don't have to take them, but at least put together a packet and some recommendations on how we might do this in Williamson County, because I understand there are people that really they like the machines, they want to go in and they want to vote on the machines, but there's also a large faction of our voting population that really would like that hand-marked paper ballot. So is that something you would be open to and consider putting together working with a committee that's willing to do the work for free?
Well, to do this right, we sought professional administrators of elections, folks that have experience in elections. I certainly will engage with any of the talent that we have in our community. In terms of forming a citizens committee, frankly, I think that is undercutting our systems and the processes we have in place. This is not something for, we need professional administrators of elections to really assist us. And I don't believe we have that with Citizens Committee. I apologize, but that's,
Well, I mean, I
Candid
guess
as
the
I
reason I
can be.
ask is because the elections group, they've never done a study like this either. So we're going to spend $100,000 with a company that's never done this type of study before. And, pardon me, but I mean, we have boards and committees across the entire county made up of citizens that are just willing to serve and willing to help and use their expertise to help make some of these decisions in our county. So I believe the Election Commission itself, there's folks that sit on that may not have election experience that sit on those committees. So I think I think it's always great when people who live in your community and are served by it are willing to step up and serve. So I would hope that you would please consider that when you go through and you look at the options. I think it would make everybody feel a little bit better knowing that people live here that want to collaborate with both sides of the argument and come together with the right recommendation for Williamson County. I think that's a win-win.
it's fair to say that we will and remain committed to the various resources we have available to us, whether it's at the U.S. national level, but there are interest groups or groups that are of citizens that are in Tennessee as well that are offered to assist, and we'll certainly use that to the best of our ability that we can. But this specific study is one that we were seeking a group that has experience, and I just want to correct a statement. We're not aware, the USA EAC is not aware of a study like this having ever been done before. However, the elections group brought hand-marked paper ballots. Individuals that would work on our study had direct experience administering or implementing across the state hand-marked paper as an option or as a compulsory system. And have used our ES&S specific system in that implementation. They have experience doing this. I know at this point, we're certain of that this is the group, if we were to proceed with this study, that will get us what we need.
Commissioner Morton.
No, he was the second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Williams.
Chairman Duda, I appreciate all the work that you've done on this. Honestly, I think this is getting over-politicized to a great extent. When we first approved the machines, we asked for your commitment to look into hand-marked paper ballots because we heard that from the citizens. Y'all ran the RFP, got a proposal, it's $100,000, right? And really, at the end of the day, we're managing risk, right? Because you're introducing some complexity into an already complex election process to give people options. You're going to have to train people to do that. There's going to be change in procedures to do that, right? And so by bringing in a third-party element to look at it, to some degree, you're sharing liability, right? Because they're the ones as professionals telling you how to do this and to mitigate the same errors that you're being poked in the eye about right now because there's one-off errors. This complexity is probably going to increase some errors. So this group is going to help us understand the complexities of it so we can eliminate as many of those errors as possible, but also provide the optionality. So guys, this is not super politicized. If y'all want hand-marked paper ballots, approve the consulting firm to come in and really dig in deep and understand what all the processes behind the actually optionality is, right? So that if we want to do this, we can actually move forward with it. And it's not just citizens, right, that aren't professional election administrators making the decision. It's that simple.
Commissioner Richards.
Commissioner Williams, I just wanted to speak to your point of the complexity of this election. It's brought about by the vote centers.
Do that through the chair. So address the chair.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. It's brought about by the vote centers. And we didn't do a study on the vote centers. That was the only point I wanted to make.
Question from Commissioner Torres.
I think, if I heard you, Mr. Chairman, thank you, when you reread this resolution, the Budget Committee voted against this time, correct? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So again, just as a reminder, this is a resolution that was formerly Resolution 224-9. The resolution now is 324-16. And where this commission did vote to conduct this study a year or so ago, it is being brought before us now. So in this case, long story short, a no vote would represent your desire to not conduct this study. A yes vote would represent your desire to conduct this study. If we're all ready to vote, looks like I may have is that right? Yeah. So if you're in favor of conducting the study, press your yes button. If you're opposed to conducting the study, press your no button.
I have a question.
I didn't see her on the screen.
She went on the screen.
All right, we'll pause the vote for a moment. And Commissioner Smith has already spoken, but we'll allow another question or comment.
Real quick, so really you're voting on the elections group to do the study is what the resolution is. So it's $100,000, but specifically for that group to do the study. And I think I'd be remiss to point out that originally we put $50,000 towards the study, and now that's $100,000. We actually haven't given an option to go out with RFP at the higher amount. So I think we're really, just want to point out, a yes vote is for the elections group to do the study. A no vote is to off. Is to say no.
A yes vote would be to spend $100,000 to have the consultants do a feasibility study on hand-marked paper ballots. If you're in favor of spending that amount of money for that feasibility study, then signify by pressing your yes button. If you are against spending that amount of money or against the feasibility study as a whole, then you would signify that by pressing your no button. That's my understanding of it anyway. Any questions or comments beyond that? All right, if you are in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
Excuse me, 1 yes, 20 no.
Resolution fails. On to appropriations. Resolution 324-2, resolution amending the 23-24 Central Cafeteria Fund budget by $2,033,008.65 for additional expenditures from excess fund balance. Proper motion made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. The school board was 9-4, 0 against. Education committee was 5-4, 0 against. Budget committee was 4-4, 0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Tunnicliffe.
I believe this was addressed earlier by Finance for the county schools. It's just rearranging some money around.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 324-3, resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Williamson County appropriating funds not to exceed $850,000 for engineering work concerning the planning and oversight for the replacement of a bridge on Sneed Road. Revenue to come from the American Rescue Plan Acts Fund. Proper motion made by Commissioner Paul Webb, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. Highway Commission was 4-4, 0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4, 0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Mr. Chairman, this is using ARPA funds for the engineering and preliminary work to replace the bridge on Sneed Road. As you'll notice, under the revised interim rules from September 20th, 2023, as long as it's not taking federal funds for this project, it is allowed to use ARPA funds. If you have any specific questions, we have the engineer here as well as the highway superintendent.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 324-4, resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Williamson County appropriating $5 million to Williamson County's insurance fund to cover costs incurred because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Revenues to come from the American Rescue Plan Acts Fund. Proper motion made by Commissioner Paul Webb, seconded by Commissioner Mary Smith. Purchasing and insurance was 4-4, 0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4, 0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Mr. Chair, this is the second time we've used this to pay for reimburse ourselves for insurance costs related to COVID, which was one of the original intents of the ARPA bill to help us get out of the extra medical expenses that the COVID pandemic generated. Specific questions that you might have, Ms. Riley may have some more detailed answers for you, more than I have, but this is allowed under ARPA, and this is the second time we have done this.
Question from Commissioner Mary Smith.
Yeah, just a quick question, probably for Phoebe. Phoebe, does this money go back into our general fund balance? Sorry. Yeah.
The money will actually be transferred into our self-insurance fund, which is Fund 263.
Okay, that's all I had.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner Steve Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This $5 million is a conveniently round number. How was that arrived at?
It is conveniently round. Actually, the claims that we went through covers for the period of April 1st, 2022 through January of 2024, and the number is actually $5,239,431.95, and we just rounded it for $5 million and did not include the $239,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Sanford.
So a quick question. So next year, when ARPA has been depleted and there's no more money, what happens when we need to be reimbursed? Is there just no more money to reimburse us?
Correct, but we're hoping also that the COVID claims are down. These are actual claims that we have spent in regard to directly related to COVID and the COVID cases, so.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3245, resolution accepting a donation of $3,000. And by the way, that is a misprinted typo on the agenda, but it's correct on the resolution itself. Donation of $3,000 to be used for maintenance of the Sheriff's Office gun range and appropriating and amending the 23-24 Williamson County Sheriff's Office budget. Revenues to come from donations. Proper motion made by Commissioner Greg Sanford, seconded by Commissioner Jeff Graves. Law Enforcement was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
This is a donation from the Brentwood Police Department in the amount of $3,000, is that correct? Yes. For the gun range at the Sheriff's Office.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3246, resolution accepting a donation from Friends of Williamson County Animal Center and appropriating and amending the 23-24 Animal Center budget by $8,000, revenues to come from donations. Proper motion made by Commissioner Betsy Hester, seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. Public Health did not meet. Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Hester.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our Friends of the Williamson County Animal Chapter they're very, very kind to our animals. And we do not get donations directly for kitten food, but our Friends group has agreed to donate $8,000 for kitten food that is needed.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed or no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3247, resolution accepting a donation from the DUI Court Foundation of Williamson County, Inc., and appropriating and amending the 23-24 Williamson County General Sessions Court budget by $30,000. Revenues to come from donations. Proper motion made by Commissioner Tunnicliffe, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. The law enforcement was 6-4-0 against, and the Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
A donation from the DUI Court Foundation of Williamson County to Williamson County General Sessions DUI Recovery Court and Treatment Program.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution appropriating and amending the 23-24 Parks and Recreation budget by $172,913.50. Revenues to come from donations. Proper motion made by Commissioner Paul Webb, seconded by Commissioner David O'Neill. The Parks and Rec Committee was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Mr. Chair, this is donations from the various community youth organizations offset scheduling for official supervisors, as well as contributions toward the maintenance and repairs and upgrades at the parks and for Parks and Rec. Mr. Hampton is here if anyone has any questions.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3249, resolution appropriating and amending the 23-24 Parks and Recreation budget by $283,000, revenues to come from parks and recreation fees. Proper motion made by Commissioner Paul Webb, seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. Parks and Rec was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is similar to the prior one, except this one is more, I would say, for instructors. And at the Parks and Recreation Committee, it was explained to us that the Parks Service collects these fees for those that participate in the programs, and then they actually pay the instructors. You'll see that down here as a line item. And also, due to the supply chain issues the automotive industry has had, the Parks and Rec Service is having to repair the rolling stock vehicles until the new vehicles arrive. So there's extra expense there, which they're using these donations for.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3-2410, resolution authorizing the hiring of a full-time position for the Veterans Treatment Court within the current fiscal year. Revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Chaz Morton, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Human Resources Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Morton.
These are grant funds for a probation officer. When the grant ceases, we will stop paying for the position.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3-2411, resolution accepting the donation of a 2012 Ford F-150 truck on behalf of Williamson County Animal Center. Proper motion made by Commissioner Mary Smith, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Stresser.
This is a very generous donation by Andrew Beckington, 2012 Ford F-150 for the Animal Control Center.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3-2412, resolution amending resolution number 92339 to accurately reflect specific VIN numbers for surplusing equipment of the Williamson County Sheriff's Office. Proper motion made by Commissioner Mary Smith, seconded by Commissioner Drew Torres. Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Stresser.
This is basically just correcting the VIN numbers for two trailers that were surplused over to the city of Franklin.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3, 2013, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a lease agreement with Tucker's House for office space in the County Community Services Building. Proper motion made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Stresser.
This will be a 5-year lease for suites 137 and 138 for Tucker's House.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Tunnicliffe. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3, 2014, resolution to surplus and approve the conveyance of a solid waste trash compactor to Perry County, Tennessee Solid Waste Department, and authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute all documentation needed to complete the conveyance. Proper motion made by Commissioner Mary Smith, seconded by Commissioner David O'Neill. The Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Stresser.
This is a surplus trash compactor that we're going to sell to Perry County for $400,000 as is.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3, 2014, resolution to surplus and approve the sale of a solid waste department roll-off truck to the Lawrence County of Tennessee Solid Waste Department and authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute all documentation needed to complete the conveyance. Proper motion made by Commissioner Mary Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jeff Graves. Municipal Solid Waste Board did not meet. Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Stresser.
Surplus roll-off truck that we're selling to Lawrence County for $60,000, which is actually $10,000 over its market value.
Any questions?
We're selling it as is, too, by the way.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. As always, I want to thank the sheriff's deputies for being here. Thank all department heads for coming out. Is there any other business to come before this commission?
No April meeting.
Oh, and again, there's no April meeting, so don't show up here in April. We'll reconvene in May, and with that, we are adjourned.